Okay, so let's continue our simplifying of our polynomials by multiplying. But with this one, we're going to actually have not only a monomial outside, but we're actually going to be multiplying a binomial in there. So when you're multiplying, guys, it's just like whenever you multiplied in math lab. Like if I had 12 times 46, you had to always make sure you took each part and multiplied it by each part, right? First I had to take the 6 and multiply it by the 2 and the 1. And then you had to take the 4 and you had to multiply it by the 2 and the 1. So you had to multiply everything together. Well, that's the same thing with terms. Whenever you're multiplying two polynomials together, you have to make sure that all of the terms get multiplied together. And sometimes it can get a little confusing, so we like to be systematic about it. One way of being systematic is that we made a cute little acronym that if you have a binomial times a binomial, that we would FOIL. So maybe you heard that, maybe you didn't. Some teachers teach it, but it's a way that we can remember everything we've done. So first we do the first terms, and then we do the outer terms, and then we multiply the inner terms, and then we multiply the last terms. Now, FOIL only works as if you have a binomial times a binomial, okay? Those are two terms in each one. But if you had a trinomial times a binomial, FOIL doesn't work anymore. But as long as you're being systematic and trying to remember that you need to multiply each term by each term, you're gonna be okay, all right? So I'm gonna always use the same order that FOIL does, but you know, whenever we get to those trinomials and stuff like that, I won't be able to say first, outer, inner, last. All right, so in my examples, I'm going to say x times x. Those are the first. And then I'm going to say x times 4. That's the outer, okay? And then I'm going to move to the 2. I'm going to say 2 times x. That's the inner. And then 2 times 4, which is the outer, okay? So everything, once you multiply, is all the same. You just have to make sure that you're multiplying everything by everything. So if x times x is x squared, x times 4, we write that as plus 4x. And then inner, 2 times x is just 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. Now, one thing with these is most of the time you're going to have to combine like terms at the end as well. So you should always be checking that. We have a positive 4x and a positive 2x. X squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay, and we're done. So in our example over here, okay, we have 2x times x, 2x times -5, 1 times x, and 1 times -5. So 2x times x is 2x squared, okay? 2x times -5 is -10x. 1 times x is just x, right? I don't write 1x, I just write x. And then 1 times -5 is -5. The only thing that's left to do is make sure you combine like terms. So you have 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. Okay, so we are going to continue. So while we're working through these, there's so many examples in these that I am only going to work out the odd problems, and that's the only ones that I expect to see on your paper. But if you want to work out the even ones for extra practice, or you want to come with them, bring them to me and we can work them out together, that can help us, okay? All right, so let's do number 1. I've got y times y times 1, 8 times y, 8 times 1. Okay, if you like drawing the arrows, you can, you don't have to. So we have y squared, y times 1 is positive y, 8 times y is 8y, 8 times 1 is 8. Combine those like terms. So you have y squared plus 9y plus 8. Okay, I am going to leave number 3 for you guys to do. And moving on. So number 5. So we've got 4x times x is 4x squared. 4x times positive 3 is a positive 12x. Okay, we're done with the 4x. Now we're going to go to -7. -7 times x is a -7x. -7 times 3 is a -21. It does always help to wait to write the sign if it's a plus or a minus until you know what sign your next term is going to be. Okay, now I'm going to combine like terms. 4x squared plus 5x minus 21. Okay, all right. Number 7. going to be multiplying. So 3y times 3y is 9y squared, right? We always multiply those coefficients, add the exponents. 3y times 2 is a positive 6y. 1 times 3y is just 3y, and 1 times 2 is just 2. Combine those like terms, and you have 9y squared plus 9y plus 2. All right. So on number 9, we do want to be careful because we got some minus signs. Those are going to make some negatives. So remember, negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a positive is a negative. So I have 8h times 3h. It gives me a 24h squared. 8h times negative 1 is negative 8h. Negative 3 times 3h gives me a negative 9h. And negative 3 times negative 1 gives me a positive 3. Be careful with those negatives, okay? So combine these like terms. Now, when you add or subtract negatives, okay, there's no rule like that. I'm going to add these two negative numbers together. You owe me $8, and then you owe me another $9. You still owe me $17. Okay, so make sure that you're kind of remembering the differences between adding, subtracting, and then multiplying and dividing with negative numbers. Okay, number 11, we got x's and y's. We can still do it. We're just gonna, only add the exponents with the common basis. So 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times y, negative y, is a negative 5xy. Okay, just make sure you're writing them in alphabetical order. Positive 4y times x is a positive 4. I'm going to write it in alphabetical order, xy, okay? And then 4y times negative y is a negative 4y squared. Okay, so the only thing that's left to do is to combine those terms. So I have 5x squared minus 5, a minus 5 and a positive 4 will make a negative 1. So we'll just write negative xy minus 4y squared. Okay. Number 13. I really like this one. And let's see what happens whenever we multiply these out. So I have 2r times 2r, I get 4r squared. And then I have 2r times negative s, I just have a negative 2rs. Right? And then I have a positive s and a positive 2r. So I end up with a positive 2rs. And then I have a positive s and a negative s, I end up with a negative s squared. Now, what I liked about this was that, look at my middle terms. When I combine those, what happens? Negative 2 plus 2, they go away, okay? It's just equal to 0. So I'm left with 4r squared minus s squared. So what's really cool is these two binomials, they have a special name. They're called a conjugate of each other, okay? They're conjugates. And the definition of a conjugate is a binomial, okay, that just has the opposite sign in the middle. So they're similar, identical binomials, except the sign is opposite. And what's cool about these is we use them in techniques later whenever we need to eliminate some middle terms, okay, some terms. If I'm trying to eliminate some terms, one technique I could do would be like, oh, I'm going to multiply it by its conjugate, okay? So those are some neat examples. You'll probably see some in Alex where those middle terms will just disappear, okay? All right, number 15, sorry. This one's written a little bit differently. Now, hopefully you guys went over this in Algebra 1A, but just to review, when you have an exponent, it tells you to take whatever that exponent is affecting and multiply it by itself. So I have x plus 4 times x plus 4, okay? When you have multiple terms inside of your parentheses, you have to follow the distributing, okay? You have to distribute it properly. So we'll see some with some, when you just have one term inside, it's a little bit different. When you have two terms inside this parentheses, you gotta rewrite it like this, and then you'll see, oh, I have to FOIL. Oops, plus 4x plus 16. The only thing that's left to do is add those like terms, x squared plus 8x plus 16. Okay, I'm gonna leave number 17 for you guys. All right, 19. Now you notice here, I've got a binomial out here, but I got a trinomial in here. So even though I can't use the nice, pretty acronym FOIL, okay, I'm still gonna be doing the same thing. I'm gonna multiply everything by everything. So as long as you're just keeping track, you're gonna be okay. So first I'm gonna take the x and I'm gonna multiply it by each piece. So x times x squared is x cubed. X times 3x is a positive 3x squared. X times negative 6 is a negative 6x. Okay, I'm done with the x. I'm going to move on to the 4. 4 times x squared is 4x squared. 4 times 3x is 12x. And 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Okay, so just take one number at a time and multiply it by each piece. Okay, I'm going to combine those like terms. I have a plus 7x squared. I have a plus 6x. And a minus 24. Okay, so just make sure you're multiplying every piece by every piece. And I'm gonna leave number 21 for you to do. 23 will be a bonus if you'd like.